Hi, my name is Guy Okazaki. I was born in 1948 on the island of Oahu. I moved to Venice in 1955, and obviously I was really young, so my parents influenced that move. They told me, pack my things and get on the plane. Well, it was a mixed bag. I mean, it was the 50s, and so it had a lot of the 50s qualities. I mean, it was kind of like, typical open door atmosphere. No one locked their doors. Everybody was outside as far as the kids were speaking. They were running around playing in the street. There were a lot of kids in our neighborhood, my age, just by circumstance or happenstance. And so it was your typical kind of happy days. The surrounding area was really a mixed bag. It was an education because Abbott Kinney today, which was West Washington Boulevard at the time, that was Skid Row. So you had bars and drunks all over the sidewalk. Then you had other communities like Oakwood. Oakwood was what, as kids, we aspired to. They had park, they had churches, they had markets, they actually had culture, the things that we were used to enjoying in Hawaii, Oakwood had. And so we kind of looked at that community as being sort of a beacon. And then there was Mar Vista, which was as a kid, we looked at as like that was the Beverly Hills of the West Side. I grew up on Grayson Avenue, which is just right off of Washington Boulevard, adjacent to the canals, and that was according to CBS News at the time, it was called Appalachia by the Sea. And it was. I mean, it was the second, or if not the poorest community in the United States. And it was really depressed. Just a side note, well, we didn't choose that neighborhood because we thought it was beautiful. We were redlined there. We looked at a home actually a couple blocks from here, and we're on Navy Street. This is just a couple blocks up on around Thatcher, and we were denied because Japanese Americans could not live in Santa Monica at that time. Prior to us moving here, there was a vibrant Japanese American community, but unfortunately, the community that was here at the time were relocated and interned during World War II. So when we arrived, they were basically, those Japanese Americans were just trying to reestablish their lives. Some of them were just trying to find a way, like their businesses, their homes, everything they owned was taken away from them. A lot of them were farmers, and they farmed that whole area, which is now the Bologna wetlands and Playa Vista. Those were all Japanese farms. My parents were obviously very busy. Both worked. My mother worked for the Social Security Administration. My dad worked for Treasury Department. So they were always off. And my sister and I pretty much were feral. But we were responsible. We took care of the house. We did dishes. We did laundry. We cleaned. We did all those good things. And as far as connecting to the community, it was basically on the weekends. My dad would take us to the beach. He was a surfer, fisherman, swimmer. He was a long distance swimmer, and loved just to go jump in the water and go for 5 and 10 mile swims. So he would literally swim out of sight, and we would just took it for granted he would come back. Once I got a little older, there was a lumber yard on Venice Boulevard, right at Venice and Abbott Kinney, West Washington Boulevard, called Hull Lumber. And we were just tinkering around there one day, and he saw these planks of redwood and thought like, oh, wow, those are beautiful pieces of wood. And bought a few and brought them back to the house and shaped me a surfboard. So I was like, well, what are you doing? He goes, I'm making you a surfboard. And so that was sort of the beginning of it, you know. And so I had he made me 2 or 3 redwood surfboards. I wish I would have kept them. That would just be so golden to still have to this day. I understand what sort of melded our community together. When I say our family and our community was the sports, and like I said, Oakwood had organized sports, and so I started playing Little League and got to meet all the kids from other grammar schools instead of just Nightingale. And that was the beginning of it. And some of the friends that I met in Little League, I still remain in touch with. So there was Little League, then there became Pop Warner football that segued into Venice High School football and baseball and surfing. And we were all like one big group of kids, and we surfed, we played football, we played baseball, we did whatever. Venice, when we first arrived here, was as balanced as you could make it. I mean, I don't think you could plan it anymore. We had a huge Latino community that lived in our area. We had, and the Sentinel area. You had an African American community, obviously, from Oakwood. And Santa Monica, too. We had a lot of the African American kids coming from around the Pico area, which was displaced when they put the 10 freeway in. So some of that community moved down to Venice. Some of the community moved in more inland to South Central. Obviously, we had a substantial Caucasian community also. So race back then was pretty a non sort of issue. You know, we all saw each other as just being poor kids. We had that in common, you know. We were all like, and obviously we weren't poor. There were some of the families that were literally really poor, but most of them were you know, lower middle class people, working class people, and trying to better themselves. 60s in Venice was absolutely the greatest time I could possibly choose to be a teenager. I mean, it was joyful, wild, sort of just very new. There was all that energy at the boardwalk, being boardwalk today, but it was just, you know, the beach. You know, all the beats and you know, the guys at the gas house. The music scene was just everywhere. We took it for granted because there were so many musicians living in the neighborhood, because they could, you know, make as much noise as they want. They could rehearse. No one complained. You know, making noise in Venice was just sort of a given. So we had, and all the artists that you know were just coming down and basically setting up shop and painting, and a lot of great photographers. And then the surfboard guys were in that mix too. So we had you know, Greg Knoll, Dewey Weber, Dale Velzy was a local. Pete Peterson, who lived a couple doors from Nightingale Elementary School, was sort of the epicenter. He was a lifeguard and a hoarder of toxic materials. The guy had just drums and drums and drums of just things that they would get from the docks. They would get these barrels of resins and fuels, and all the board builders of that era would come down and hang out and grab stuff and make things. So as a teenager, I got to watch Dewey Weber and Harold Iggy actually make surfboards on the beach.
What did you get your introduction to shaping in Venice, and sort of who was that and how did that happen?
Well, the confidence to do it was from my dad, because obviously I watched him do it. So it was like, oh, that's easy, right? It's doable. You grab those tools and you knock on this piece of wood or whatever. The more modern era was I would attribute to Dewey and Harold Iggy, because I could go right down, they were right around 42nd Avenue, which is probably today around Lighthouse or North Star. They just took over an abandoned building and turned it into a surfboard factory. So I could ride my bike over there any time of day and watch them literally make a surfboard from scratch. And they would shape all out on the beach. So Iggy would shape surfboards on the sand, and then they would glass them in the living room of this house, and complete process of the surfboard right there in this living room. They had no running water, no power. They ran an electrical cord from a neighbor's garage to power the power tools, and so it was kind of the wild, wild west. But they were building. Now I realize, at the time I just took it for granted, but now I look back, they were building really beautiful state-of-the-art surfboards in the most primitive ways imaginable. So that was, that was like freshman year of board building for me. They went from 2 guys in a garage doing it for kicks to within a 5-year span, they went and became, and they didn't realize at the time, I know this today because I looked at numbers, but within from say like early 60s to the late 60s, like say 66, 67, they became the largest manufacturer of surfboards in the United States. So they moved from obviously abandoned house to the factory on Lincoln Boulevard and blew up. And so I was still hanging out. I would still drop by and check in, and they were making me surfboards. I was always like, one of their groms, and they were like, "Hey, try this." Dewey and Iggy would give me surfboards to test in Hawaii and give them feedback and see how they worked. So I was pretty fortunate. Houses on the beach back then were about $125 a month. And I was fortunate enough to get a house on Driftwood, which was a 4-bedroom, 2-story, double lot with all parking and a giant, it was just an open floor. So it was one big living space downstairs with a huge kitchen. It would be considered a modern home today, but because of the layout. And I almost moved out of that house because the landlord wanted to raise my rent from $150 a month to $175. And I was like incensed. I was so irate. I didn't know what to do. I'm stomping around, and my neighbors going like, "Well, what's wrong with you? You got a 4-bedroom house. Why don't you just get a roommate?" And I was like, ooh. I didn't think of that, and so it sort of turned into Animal House, and then the floodgates opened and the word got out. It's like, "You're renting, can I move in? Can I move in?" And then it was like, oh my God, everybody wanted to live with me, and it was chaos. Next door was Brian Wilson, 2 doors over. Dennis lived 2 doors on the opposite side. Jesse and Davis, the musicians. Baron Stewart. Ed Olson, I don't know if you know his name, but Ed Olson became one of our first billionaires to come out of Venice. Just a fascinating story. He just passed away last year. We really miss him. We never knew, my roommates said, we never knew if there would be 5 people at our parties or 500. It just evolved. So we would have, just jam sessions. And our jam sessions would have people like, from, Jesse Ed Davis, who was playing with, played with the Rolling Stones, played with Eric Clapton. So Bonnie Raitt would drop by. Having those kinds of musicians playing in your living room sort of attracted attention. And so we would have, sometimes we had parties where there were 300 people show up. Well, coming out of the 70s, obviously the rise of Jeff Ho, Zephyr surfboards, and the Dogtown scene needs to be addressed. I mean, to this day, I have some of my friends that accredit that era as being, a cultural shift. And in retrospect, it's true. I mean, Dogtown Zephyr is still spoken of today. There are kids all around the world that recognize it, recognize Jeff Ho's name, or recognize the word Dogtown or the location Dogtown. I don't think, the irony is, I don't think anyone knows the exact address of Dogtown, so, Venice claims it, Santa Monica claims it, we could claim it here because we're sort of in the middle of both sides. And this goes back to the 50s. The reason it's so fluid is because the community was fluid. And people don't remember this, but there used to be a tram that ran from Washington Boulevard to Santa Monica Pier. And it cost 25 cents. And as kids, we could jump on the back with, if it wasn't full, the drivers would let us jump on the back with surfboards. And for a quarter, we could ride from our house to Santa Monica Pier. Technically, they were supposed to double charge right here at POP, but they would let us slide. And so the kids and the culture all blended together because we had that transportation to like go back and forth. So this was all, there was no like Santa Monica, Venice, North Side, South Side, blah, blah, blah. That all came to be in the 70s. We were all just one big community of kids, and because there wasn't that many surfers. So anybody that surfed, you were a member, because boards weren't easy to come by, surfing wasn't easy to come by, and so if you saw another person that enjoyed it, you would bond. So Dogtown really was a fluid group of people, and there was no like designated like location for it. I give Jeff Ho all the credit for creating that, and I could speak to it because we would have these conversations and we'd work together in the surfboard business. His surfboard business was about to explode, and I came in to help him. He needed help. He was growing so fast, and I was pushing him to like focus on the surfboard aspect of his business, and he kept gravitating to the skateboard community, and it was out of the goodness of his heart because he just saw all these kids speaking to the loss of leadership from the Vietnam War. He saw these kids that were basically rudderless and lacking parents, lacking mentors, lacking the older kids, men that could sort of work with them. So he stepped into that void. And I think that, and I know this because I told him not to do it, and he didn't listen to me and went ahead and did it anyway, and funded his skate team and that whole competition aspect of skating. Actually held training sessions where he worked with the kids on how to do different tricks. He fused surfing, like the Larry Bertelman kind of super low, big backside turns that Jay Adams then took to the next level from surfing to skateboarding. And Jay's credit was that Jay was the first or one of the youngest, who really excelled at surfing at a super young age and took that skill set and that talent and incorporated it into skateboarding. And he sort of was the first surf skater. And prior to that, the other kids up and down the coast were just doing really sort of basic, more sort of longboard style skateboarding, where they would just do a little cross step, stand up straight, blah, blah, blah. Boring. Jay just interjected that radical surf style to skateboarding, and it exploded. Venice is still an amazing community, and the people that live here, or even the newer residents or whatever, have a perspective on our community. And I think it's a matter, it's a sense of pride, it's a sense of value of this ecosystem that goes from the mountains, the creek, to the beach, to the ocean. It's one big system, and it could be restored. And the beauty that it could hold is just unimaginable.